Oh, what is this? There's gotta be a better way. Damn, that does look good though. Dehancer. What is that? Welcome everyone. Thank you for stopping by. My name is DaVinci. I'm a photographer from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. Today we're gonna go over Dehancer as a whole. We're gonna go through the DaVinci Resolve video modes. We're gonna go through Lightroom. We're gonna check out the web app and also the iOS app. If you're wanting to go to either of the sections, they will be stamped in the timeline and also in the description. So you can go right ahead if you would choose so. First off, I wanna say that Dehancer did reach out to me requesting me to do this review. However, it does not influence what I say, and they have told me to be open with how I feel about the product so that they can hopefully improve it for the better if I do have any issues or any suggestions. So I thank them for that and I really appreciate it. And I do have a promo code that if you do want to benefit me or you found the review helpful, I would appreciate if you use my promo code Devin_10, and that will be also in the description. Thank you very much. Let's go on now to the DaVinci portion of the review. Starting in DaVinci, we're going to be referencing this guide here that Dehancer has provided us and everyone who visits their website. They state that you should be starting out with a primary correction node, followed by mask node, and then a color space transform, and a Dehancer OFX with sharpening as the last step. So let's go back to DaVinci here, and we're going to create, let's just do 5 nodes to start. Now, with this 4th node, we're going to create color space transform, and then we're going to, because this is Nikon N-Log, we're going to use Rec 2020, and then Nikon N-Log, and then Rec 709. And we're going to set this as a gamma 2.2. And gamma 2.2 is important to use because most mediums that your content will be featured on will be in a 2.2 gamma. So it's best for practically everyone to use, I would say. And then tone mapping method, select DaVinci or luminance mapping based on your preferences, and just set the max output. Use custom max output here as well. Gamma mapping method, saturation compression. You can change that however you like though if you have other preferences. Color space, DaVinci YRGB, timeline color space Rec 709, scene, and output color space, same as timeline. Okay, now with this one here, we're going to go exactly to why you came here. For Dehancer, we're going to deselect the ones that are pre-selected. When you start off each Dehancer node, you will notice that there are a few that are pre-selected, which is something that's not exactly my favorite. I don't really enjoy having it at all do that. So if you could maybe in the future give us an option or give us ability to do some sort of preset for when we open it and it goes automatic to the ones we want, that would be preferable. Now, if you haven't set up Dehancer, at the very bottom is where you do so. So you go to license info or check profiles, and that's where you'd sort all that out. Okay, going back up. Now that we have this on, we have an image with proper color. It's not like a flat log image anymore. So now we can go back to our first node, close effects temporarily, and we can just work with our color. These first 3 nodes I'll be setting as linear in the gamma region. Now with that, I'm going to want to adjust my white balance, going on to the contrast now, we can work within the lift, gamut, and gain wheels. And again, this is in linear. We can work with our image here, create a bit of contrast where we'd like. And yeah, work with the gain now. Okay, looking at the next node, we'll go in here and we can make some slight adjustments, also in linear, as I had mentioned. Kind of blow the highlights maybe a little bit in the dash here. Oh, maybe I'm going to lift this maybe a little bit more. Lower that. Okay, now we're going to skip past this color space transform node. Obviously, we have nothing to do there. And we're going to go into effects and start with Dehancer. So now, because our camera was put out into a Rec 709, we're going to select Rec 709 here. And you have some pretty basic adjustments that you'll know from editing in photography and whatnot, between exposure, temperature, tint, compensation, defringe, and defringe radius that are here. So now, just going through the guide, I'm going to just scroll through and you can have a look and see if any of these tips based on color transforms that you want to do apply to you. This is the ACES pipeline and also DaVinci wide gamut pipeline. Talking about input sources, camera profiles, and all that. Okay, now going on to input corrections, you have your exposure compensation, temperature compensation, defringe, and yeah, we're going to go into that now. And these react about how you would expect them to react if you've been involved in photography work or video work for a while. You should know what most of these do. Just making some heavy-handed adjustments. You can see maybe a little easier what they do. Fringe radius. Oh, whoops, you have to turn that on. I don't think there is any color fringing, so it won't really matter. Now going on to film. Now this is one of the most important parts of the Dehancer plugin. As shown here, that this is the heart and soul of Dehancer. Each film is accurately sampled with all of its characteristics. If you're ready to be on years of film experience, then you can simply scroll and try film profiles in the list until you get the most interesting or desired results. You're able to push and pull the EV, and then you can change also the film color, temperature, and source white balance. Everyone should understand for the most part how this should work in the color developer. And there's just a plethora of different film emulations in here. You have the Cine Still ones, you have just so many Fuji ones, Fuji Reala, Velvia, Provia. There's just so much here. There's just so many Fuji film stocks here. They have an Eterna Vivid one, Fuji Color, Fuji Chrome. Just the list keeps going on. They have Ilford HP5. They have some nice black and white ones that you can play with. Kodak, Kodak Color, Kodak Gold, Kodachrome, the Portra 400, 800, Supra, Kodak Vision 3, the 200T, 250D, and the 500T. I'd say probably one of my favorites in here, I'd say, is probably the 500T. And I think that's what we're going to go with on this image here. I'm just going to leave that enabled. Let's go on to this film developer now, and we're going to play with some of the settings here and just see how they describe these settings here. They're talking about the film color, temperature, and source white balance. I think most of you will probably understand this, so you can read it if you want, but I'm going to move along. Contrast boost, gamma correction in film processing. Gamma correction controls the contrast ratio of a negative in relation to exposure time. This parameter determines how much the midtones are shifted towards shadow or highlights. So let's just see now. Just some very minor tweaks here, but seems like it's doing a good job nonetheless. Color separation. Okay, now color boost. This is where you're going to see the most dramatic difference between all these. Saturating the image quite a bit. Now, the color separation of the negative film is determined by the color filters in the emulsion layer. The sensitization of each layer in their order. In Dehancer, you can control the chemical component of the developer, which affects the sensitization of the emulsion layers. And yeah, so I'm going to move on to the next portion here. And you understand color boost, I'm sure now, after looking at that. Film compression. Now we're going to touch on. Now we're going to start off in impact now. You can see, especially right in here, some of the effect that that's having. Let's make this maybe a little smaller. Let's read up on impact. Impact, the parameter determines the degree of compression. The higher the impact value, the more the highlights are pushed towards the midtones. And yeah, you can definitely see that. Now the white point, pretty obvious looking at this now, what that does. And this is explained here. I think most people will understand what the white point does, the tonal range now. Let's get a definition of tonal range. This parameter represents the width of the tonal range affected by film compression tool. A minimum value 0 means no compression, and maximum value 100 means that the compression affects the wide range from the brightest highlights almost all the way down to the deepest shadows. Color density now. Now, color density is actually one of the best ways to apply saturation to an image, and it's really slight, but it's been my personal preference since I heard Callan Coley recommend that be the #1 way to increase saturation in the image. And now it's described as using different films. You can reproduce color differently as they get closer to the highlights. Negative films tend to noticeably lose saturation in the highlights. Slides remain more vibrant even though the clipping occurs earlier. The color density parameter controls the color intensity of the compression range. Color density equals 0 produces the lowest saturation in the highlights, which is more typical for negative films. Color density equals 100 provides maximum saturation, and the image looks more like positive films. Going to expand now. Let's just tweak the black point a bit, and it should be pretty self-explanatory what most of this does here. Expand tool provides a separate manual control for black and white points in relation to output color space. All films naturally have different contrast, different black and white points. At the sampling stage, we avoid digital correction to preserve the individual features of films, which ensures a fair amount of convincing simulation. So it's saying in this one that you should be using expand immediately after a film profile selection. You set the black and white points to fit an image into a dynamic range of your timeline color space. Clipping control is essential at this point, so we keep an eye on the waveform. During a grading session, you'll probably revisit this tool several times. So color mode Luma. This color mode can be useful if you encounter unwanted color shift or oversaturation, and the Luma mode expand affects only the luminance component of your image, but does not affect its color, so the change in contrast have no effect on saturation. As you can see here, going to deselect Luma, leave it on color mode. Going into print now, where we're going to have an option to look at some print adjustments, and this gives you a bit more creative control in linear now. This is actually going to allow you to make adjustments without the print characteristics it's much more similar compared to what you've been, or compared to the next following ones. If you look at Cineon Film Log, you can see just how drastic the change can be between these two. And with this one, you're going to definitely want to add on some color density unless that's what you're looking for, and contrast, because it's really lacking. Going into the Fujifilm 3513 print film, it's definitely a bit of a change, I would say, and we'll just bump everything back to the standard amount, and yeah, I mean, it's not too overwhelming here. Yeah, looks pretty good, although the Kodak 2383 I would say is my favorite. It's default everything here. You put maybe a bit of color saturation, maybe lower the contrast a little bit on this one, or just bump it just a slight bit. And then we also have the Kodak Endura glossy paper. We're gonna just work with the Kodak 2383. And now the print mode also has this analog range limiter, and this really limits the range on your image, as you can see here. Gonna go back to the read up, and if you want to read through this, here it is. On to the next one. We'll look at the analog range limiter. By default, print adjustments work within the boundaries of digital contrast range. Black and white points are normalized to the digital brightness values of 0 and 100 respectively. To obtain a softer image and improve the detail at extremes of the tonal range, enable analog range limiter, which uses the uncorrected black and white point values as they're measured on the reference points. Reference prints, sorry. Okay. Let's leave that unselected, and we're going to go over to color head. Now, looking at the yellow and blue, after clicking expand, you can kind of see what it's doing here. It's doing some sort of HSL work. This is magenta and green. I'll be a little heavy-handed so you can kind of get a better idea of how all this works. Cyan, red. You can select gang in order to move all of them at once in either direction. I'm just gonna leave gang unselected, and then now we can work in the shadows. The mid-tone, and then the highlight tone, and then preserve exposure, and impact. You can just see here from 0 is with none of what you just selected turned on, and then 100 is 100%. So I think the changes were actually beneficial here. I'm happy with them. And we're going to go back over to this, and we can just read up. If you want to look into this, stop the video and just give it a read. This just explains how everything works here. I think most of it's pretty self-explanatory. Going into film grain now. So I'm sure most of you that have bought this are planning to use this for the film grain option, and they do it just so well. I mean, it makes sense why someone would want this for this. it does look quite good, and there's lots of options between 8mm ISO 50 to 65mm ISO 500, and they all look quite good. And yeah, I have no complaints with them. I mean, they look pretty, it looks pretty realistic, and I don't see any faults at all with the film grain in here. I think it looks good. Let's just see what they say about the film grain. Real grain on film isn't just overlaid on top of an image, but in fact the image itself entirely consists of grain. Dehancer literally reconstructs the shot using the local color and brightness characteristics, along with a complex physical modeling of a film emulsion. This just talks about the grain profiles, custom settings. Yeah, I should include that as well. They have a custom setting here at the top where you can really tweak your grain, and there's just so much range with how it can be constructed to your liking. So if those preset options don't really do it for you, there's something in here that will work for sure. I've never been able to dial in grain quite like this before, and it's really cool. You have negative options too, positive mode, analog, or just noise if you're wanting more of like a digital look, which most people aren't wanting that these days, but that is an option as well if you want to replicate noise. This film grain is really good. I have no complaints with this film grain at all, and I think it makes for a really nice image. It can be as subtle or as intense as you'd like. So now we're going to go on to halation. Halation is the film emulsion effect visible as the local red-orange halos around the bright light sources, specular highlights, and contrasting edges. Also, halation may produce a well-pronounced red glare in the midtones, mostly affecting the skin tones. Now, they give you plenty of profiles here now to work within. Halation and bloom. Usually these effects coexist on film and mutually influence each other. Therefore, it is generally best to use halation and bloom in tandem to get a more accurate simulation. Bloom emulates the combined effect of light dispersion on the boundaries of the contrasting image areas, which originates in the optical system and then amplified in the emulsion layers. Notice the bloom has little in common with optical side effects, as it appears only around the light sources. So now these are the bloom profiles that appear here, and you'll be able to see this in most of your images. Unlike the halation, it's quite evident. As you can see here now, I'm going to select the 8mm once more. So now the custom mode is also here too if you really want to go in depth with that. And I'm going to pick the 8mm one, and we're going to just work within here. Just give it a nice little bit of a glow, not too much, nothing too excessive. And this is after, and this is before, after, before. Okay. Should be able to see that nicely. Now, film damage. Film damage should be pretty self-explanatory. It includes dust, hair, scratches, stains, and emulsion irregularities. Damage inevitably appears on film. Natural dirt enhances the impression. So, as you can see here, the definitions of some of the things here: hair amount, scratches, and this can be fully tweaked to your liking. And we're going to play within this now, and you can see here exactly how we want to set this up. So we can include dust, we can make it really dusty. This is actually the first time that I went within this custom setting, so this is actually really interesting, because I was wondering where you were able to include this, because I've watched other people's videos on this, and I wasn't sure how they were getting this like crazy film damage, but now I see it here. So I mean, if we want to just go full on dust, hair, and scratches, we can just kind of see how excessive we can make this all. Let's scratch it up. Okay, let's just see how this looks. I mean, it looks ridiculous, especially all the hairs and stuff inside there. Maybe it'll look a little more convincing with the dust and the scratches. The scratches maybe a little bit too intense as well. Just lower the scratch a bit. But yeah, it's so cool to be able to make adjustments. It's too much too with the dust. So yeah, if you want to go crazy on this, you can definitely go crazy and just include a ton of film damage options in here. Okay, now the scratches are maybe a little bit too much. I'm trying to find something that's a little bit convincing. Maybe like about here. Wait, scratch amount. I still have it left set to 100. No, it's the hairs. The hairs are, for me, it seems like a bit much. But I think that looks quite convincing for like something that's not super old. But we have been working with an 8mm, so I'm going to increase the dust maybe a little more. Let's just see how this looks. Okay, I actually like that. Turning off the film damage, we're gonna go on to the next one. Going on to the film breath, it is an accidental change in exposure, contrast, and color from frame to frame as the film movies, caused by uneven emulsion coatings or development. Instability of a camera shutter and other deviations. Film breath greatly affects the viewer's experience in terms of analog feeling. Let's give this a try. Okay, let's just see. Start over again. Well, let's try custom. Okay, so you can change like the contrast between the scenes. Let's try with this at 100. What sort of tweaks that does? Exposure changes. I mean, it's not changing too much, so it's not like a crazy difference between it, but I definitely do see that it is being added in there. So there are a little bit of inconsistencies. But yeah, it's very minor. Let's go to some of the presets now and let's just see with this film breath what exactly it looks like. Okay. Turn that off. Let's go on to gate weave now. Gate weave stands for mechanical swinging of a film strip while it's being pulled through a frame window in a camera, projector, or video coding device. It is often simulated intentionally to breathe life into a digital cinema. Now this just explains the profiles, custom settings, impact. Okay, go back and let's just work with it. Let's see exactly what gate weave does. This is just impact 0, so 0% of it is added currently. And now let's put it to 100 and let's just compare the difference here. And then again, as you can see, there's lots of custom settings in here. Can really work this how you'd like, because I'm not really so skilled with changing that. I'm just going to let you all play with that yourself and kind of figure out if that's what you want. I'm just going to leave it on 8mm though, and Gonna turn the impact down maybe a little bit, and we're gonna turn that off now and go into overscan. Now this one's fun because you can put borders and stuff on it, and working within the Super 8 now. Oh, we have to enable it, and with scale, changing the scale here, you can see right away what this does. This will replicate the film reel when it is being scanned. And as you can see here in the overscan menu, it explains the motion picture aspect ratios between 8 to 65 Panavision. Also the gate shape, and it gives you lots of different options on how you want to tweak this. Let's go back now and let's just play with this a bit because it's kind of fun to work around this. You can sharpen the edges, you can round them, turn it off, preparation mode, positive, negative. I think negative looks a lot better personally. Go back to the gate shape, change the exposure of everything. Just have a look at that. Pretty cool stuff, I'd say. They really give you a lot to work with here. Lens zoom. You don't have to zoom in a ton if you don't want. You can change the axes. Yeah, pretty self-explanatory. Gate defocus. You can see it right in here, what that does. You can flip it. Static gate. What does that do? Static gate. Static gate, this option allows you to enable or disable dynamic variation of the film gate from frame to frame. By default, the film gate is static and does not change throughout the clip, which corresponds to static gate on. If static gate is disabled, film gates will have slight variations in shape and will be used for each frame. Okay, interesting. Okay, so now you can also change your film orientation horizontally, which that looks actually pretty cool. I was going to say that did not look right, but there's lots of interesting ways you can use this for creative shots here. Let's just have a little look. I think that looks pretty sweet, but we're going to go back to vertical and have a look at some of these other ones here. So the standard 16 millimeter, you have the Super 16, Ultra 16, Super 35, widescreen 35 millimeter, and the Panavision, which, ooh wee, that's nice. That looks so sick. Whoops, gonna try and change the y-axis. Pretty cool, but yeah, no, it's not going to be practical for most, so let's just zoom in more and about like that. That's what we're going to work with then. Pretty cool, and you can see that there is some variation too with it throughout. It's pretty minor, but over in here, very cool. Okay, not sure why it's starting again now. So we're gonna leave this on the Super 8. Gonna turn the scale back to about here. Gonna just zoom the lens in and leave it about here. Okay, now going on to the vignette. Most people will understand what vignette does. Changes what's here in the corners. I'm just going to allow you to read over this. If you do not understand what vignette is, most people will, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I'm going to disable vignette, monitor mode here, false color, IRE, it gives you the graph here on the side, and I'm going to go over to this video and we can talk about what the false color IRE 16 zone does. So this tool represents different luminance values by distinct color zones, which gives you a clear view of exposure levels. False color is a popular method of a technical image control that provides a foolproof clipping and exposure monitoring. And this is just a extremely valuable tool to have. So now going through the image, you can see like your total blacks around the 0 mark here, and then just how everything moves in. And now when I was trying to set up this image, I was trying to blow out these areas here on the dash and some of outside the window, and I think we perfectly hit the exposure that I was aiming for that region. And then this is about where you want to be for like the main portions of your image, and I think we're about where we want to be here, so happy with that. Now this clipping indication will show you as well the areas that were overexposed. And going over now to output, we can just turn everything off to on. Now with this, we're going to re-add some things, some of the effects that we turned off initially, the gate weave, the film breath, and then also we're going to turn on the film damage now, and the bloom, and the halation, and the grain. All these on, it's going to be a bit laggy, I'm going to assume. You can just see how much we've done with the image, so it makes sense looking at it now with 0% of it altered to now 100% really makes a big difference. Now let's play this. Yeah, it is laggy for the playthrough, so might have to play it. So with your first playthrough, it will be quite laggy, and then any times after that, it should just play right through. As you can see here, no issues at all with playthrough. Very snappy, responsive, but usually just the first time playing it through, it will be pretty laggy. And let's just look at how this looks in full screen. Looks nice. Now that we've edited the first video from the set, we can easily carry over all of that to our next clip just by going Command C or Windows C, and then clicking on the clips we would like to add it to with the Command or Windows selected, and then just pressing V. And now it will be applied to your images. Now just going back over to this image, now say if you think it looks maybe a little bit too warm, we can just work within here, and this is within the first node, within the gain, and now to me it looks like this image is already ready to go, which is incredible that I was able to do that so fast now. Now looking at this image here now of this bike, I mean, it looks ready to go already, which is incredible. Now going here, look at that. I mean, I think it's pretty sweet. Okay, now going on to the Lightroom portion of Dehancer, I have an image here that I think will work quite well in Dehancer. I'm going to go to Edit In, select Dehancer, select sRGB, no compression, 16-bit, 300 resolution, and a TIFF. Now that we have it all opened, there will usually be some presets added on to it. So you're going to want to just go and turn off a lot of these here, just to kind of start off with a baseline with nothing. This is another one of those things that they do in this one as well, and I'm not sure why they like to pre-add on presets, but anyways, Now we have access to all of our film profiles here. We can turn them on and off by selecting here. If you click this cogwheel here, you have access to update film profiles. If that's available, you can work on your license information if need be. You can make some adjustments with the resolution of the grain if you don't have so much memory to work with. So now, when we go into this film section here, we'll have access to all the film looks unedited. So like it will just have the film adjustment only on it. And that's really great if you want to work on a custom look. So, oh, I didn't have it selected, which you would select up here. And you can favorite film profiles if you'd like as well. Want to go look at some of the presets that will be here in this preset folder, and these have been tweaked by the Dehancer team, and they have some ready to go ones that look, in my eyes, pretty great. I think these all look pretty good. I really do like that they have all these preset adjustments here, and if you want to go back to your main image, what we can do is just press this eyedropper up here, and we can just look at what it was previously to compare. Now, you also can zoom in here by pressing this option, and then you can see, I believe this is, yeah, this is for clipping. So if you have any clipping in your scene, as you'll be able to see here, it will become obvious when you look at that there. Now, if you want to reset any of these, you would double click on like the ball area here in the slider, and then that would reset it back to 0. Okay, let's turn that off. Let's look at just a couple more of these presets. Let's see what the Kodak Gold looks like. It's nice. You can see the clipping is still on. It's sensing some of the blacks in there, which is great. Kodak Ultramax. Let's see what they envision for the Vision 3s, because that's something I'm going to be working on in the tutorial. I just want to compare how this is compared to what I would do. Okay, so now let's go back to the film look. I'm going to turn everything off. I'm going to work with the Vision 3 here. Oops, I have to turn it on. Yeah, this one here. I think this one suits the image best, honestly. And now we can make those same adjustments as before, which I think it's okay. Maybe I can change the temperature just a little bit to warm it up. I think would look nice. The film developer. Just like with the DaVinci one, I do like to add maybe a little more color. Feel it desaturates it quite a bit. Contrast. Kind of like the low contrast look it gives here. But I do want to adjust the black points, I think, a bit here. Going to double click. I don't know, why is it not resetting this? Huh. I guess this tonal range was supposed to be set lower like that. Okay. It's starting to look pretty good here. I don't think I worked too much with the film compression last time, but I think those adjustments are necessary on this one. Can darken the blacks a bit. So you can see the blue coming in there, showing that it's working. Get some clipping in the sky, just a little bit. It's good. Now, as I mentioned before, the print mode's not necessarily my favorite. I'm gonna have to turn off this clipping though, because it's really making it a bit hard to see. Yeah, I'm actually going to leave the print mode off. And then if we want to work with the color head, I do think that I want to make some adjustments, maybe in the greens here. Tweak it just a little bit more green leaning. Want to whiten this image up a bit, and I'll do that in the yellow blue portion. Cyan red, maybe lower that just a hair. Now the shadow tone, mid-tone tone, highlight tone, raise that one a little bit. So now with the impact, just like with the DaVinci module, you can see that adds it or decreases it, so you can kind of just see what the adjustments did that you did. Put some film grain on it now. Let's see. I mean, I think that looks really good. I really do love their grain. I'm pretty happy with just the presets that they have though. Just like this this ISO 50-35 is good. It's nothing too crazy. Now with this halation, okay, I guess there's not as much customizable features with the halation here unless you go into custom. So, and with the mask mode, you can see exactly what you're working on. I don't know if I explained that before in the DaVinci module, but I didn't envision too much halation in this one. The hue is nice too, because you can kind of change the color of the halation. And then impact again is like a percentage, how much you're applying at one time. I think we all understand that now after we've went through it a few times. Don't want too much, just maybe in a couple areas. Now let's work on the bloom. Just see, what does that look like with that on and off? Oh, that looks really nice actually. Let's see, 35 mil. Maybe some film damage. And this is actually really unique too, because you can refresh it if you're not really a huge fan of how it looks. I mean, if we go to the 8mm, you can really, it'll be obviously more apparent to try and mimic that. 35mm, I mean, you can see a little bit in here. It's nothing too major, but I think it looks really cool. Let's go to custom now. Let's just see, because it's really interesting being able to customize this, the film damage portion, and we can refresh that just like before. And yeah, so I'm not really a big fan of having the hairs enabled though, so let's refresh that. And do we want the overscan? I think I'm just gonna go without, but we can have a look to see what it would look like with the overscan on. You have your options just like you did in DaVinci. Let's actually make some scale adjustments now with this. It's kind of cool. I'm gonna try and stop it like right in the middle. So now, while all this is really great, there is one thing that I would like to include in this, and that's being able to use multiple different photographs in order to match them together and I don't believe there's any option to be able to use different photographs. So it'd be cool if you could kind of like make it like an actual film slide of different photos at once. So that's one suggestion that I hope maybe the developers can add in the future. But I'm going to turn off overscan. And then we're going to work in the vignette now and work a little bit in here. And this will, let's just see what we can do here. I'm going to backspace that. You can see a little more here when you lower the feather, what exactly it's doing. For me, I don't know, can't say I'm a huge fan of the vignette option compared to if I were using something like what you would have on Lightroom. So it's not my favorite feature to use, if I can be honest about that. I don't know, I feel like it just needs something just to like better see it, because I feel like it requires a lot of tweaking and it's not necessarily apparent what you're working on, if that makes any sort of sense. Okay, now let's look at the before and after image. And that's, yeah, pretty drastically different. And I think this falls pretty similar to, in line with what I was working on, like in the, now looking at the before and after, I think it's pretty drastic what the changes we've made here, and I think they're for the better. So I'm really happy with how all this turned out. We're going to work on the web app now, and I'm going to give you a rundown of that, followed up by the iOS, and then my final thoughts. And this is their web app. So you find this in products. So if I were to click here, you can see Dehancer Online. And it may not be obvious at first how to access it, but I found that you just press this picture and then it forwards you to the place where you would do your editing, and it shows you the new updates that they have here. Once you've found your TIFF that you want to edit inside the app, you're then shown right away quite a few presets, I guess. And you can use the scroll wheel to zoom out, and then you can pick your poison, as they say. Once you select the preset you want, you have a lot of the same familiar options, just like you would see within the other ones. Actually, I kind of like the layout of the web app. It's kind of cool because you can zoom in and out within it, pick kind of the look you want, and you can zoom in quite a bit, so you can really kind of judge, figure out which one is best for you. Let's see here. What do these vision ones look like? Maybe this Ultramax 400, okay. So now that I'm within here, oh, let's go back. You can pick your contrast, and they show you an example of what it would look like with that brightness of contrast, which to me is something new. I've never seen anything laid out like this before. So let's pick something maybe here, which that looks quite dramatic and nice already. Look at that. Wow. And then color, similar sort of thing. I'm just gonna go back because I do like the way it's colored, and we can go into effects now. And yeah, I could tell there was already some grain pushed into that. Let's just see how this grain looks. Looks like you don't have quite the same amount of options with this one. Everything is simplified quite a bit, which is decent for like a casual person that's not like super experienced. They might actually really enjoy the web app just for how straight to the point everything is. Same with the iOS app. It's also pretty basic, but there are some things in there that could confuse people a bit, but this is manageable for sure for most people. I don't see how most people would have issues with this. And this would work well on laptops or with a mouse like I'm using. Can just increase the halation a lot. See what the bloom looks like all the way up. I don't notice it too much on this one. But yeah, so this is the web app here. It's pretty decent. I think they have something pretty good here. Yeah, you have all the same adjustments if you want to change the crop. Let's just see the original now and then go back. Okay, looking at it now, looks quite overexposed, so we're gonna, sorry, underexposed. Let's go back and I'm gonna increase the exposure a bit. There we go. I don't know what I was thinking with the last one. That's pretty good. Now with the color, it does look actually a little blue. Maybe let's try going here. I think I like that more, honestly. And the way that the halation is in the sky here, I think that looks pretty sick. Okay, fit fill. Okay, this is just to look at it maybe a little closer if you want to. And then, wait, sorry, what is adjust? Okay, this is just some final little tweaks if you want to make them. It's actually, okay, so if I want to go back, how do I do this on here? How do I go back? Because I'm trying to Command Z to go back, and I can't figure out how to change that adjustment there. So I don't know if I'm missing something, but I don't see how you go back when you set something. So, I mean, if that's not something that's included, it would be nice to have that on here. Yeah, I'm trying a few things. I don't see really how you would go back other than just adjusting everything yourself. Okay, now going to export. Yeah, so you have your lossless option, you have your best quality JPEG, you have an optimize for web one. So let's just look at the best quality JPEG. This is now the JPEG that I have from that image. And I'd say that looks pretty sweet. Yeah, it definitely looks like it was shot on a film camera. It looks like film. Halation here looks really nice. I mean, it looks really cool. I think I might actually share this photo now in this form. Yeah, really happy with this. Good work. Also, I did like the fact how easy this was. So it would be probably a pretty good option for a lot of people that aren't as experienced. So it's nice to have like something that's like nice and simple for the average person. Okay, everyone, moving on to the iOS app now for Dehancer. And this footage was shot on my 15 Pro Max iPhone, and I created it on the Blackmagic Design camera app. And it has just a correction LUT applied to it. And now I've imported it into Dehancer. and we're going to be editing the footage through here. And one thing that is particularly useful about being able to do this on the iPhone is it allows you to create a Rec 709 image if you haven't already. Like say you were just importing like a ProRes video on here, it allows you to export that same video into, say, your Mac timeline for DaVinci, because ProRes isn't currently supported and it probably never will be. So this actually will work as a pretty good converter if you want to export that to the 709 format. So another thing to take into account, and let's get started now with this. So this video I shot here in Montana, and I really do love this video. Okay, let's start off at the very beginning here. Everything is quite similar to what we've seen before in the other ones. They have, in this edit region, you can change your angle, and they have a variety of different settings here that you can work with in order to set it how you like. Now we're just going to go with the original here. We're going to go to source, and maybe I'm going to work a little bit in the temperature here and warm it up just maybe a hair. Work a little bit in the tint. That looks about good. I'm going to set my brightness about medium. Now let's go into film, and looks like they have most of the exact same ones as they had in the desktop app and the web app. So maybe we should try something a little different this time. Seeing as it's the iPhone, maybe we'll go with Portrait 400, or maybe we'll do the Kodak Gold. Now, this is a favorite of a lot of people. But like that, gonna pull it a little bit. Work in the developer now. Add a bit of contrast, because yeah, it was looking pretty flat, honestly. Color separation, leave that fully applied. Just made a little bit of color boost. And making these adjustments is really quick and immediate, and we're very responsive. I know you can't see it currently, but I guess you can see the slider move, and everything adjusts like immediately. There's no lag at all on this. I've only encountered one error on there. Oh, whoops, I'm backtracking. I've only encountered one error with this iOS app, and I'll explain it a little bit, the error that I found. But for the most part, this app has been bug-free for me. And the bug that I did encounter, I'll just say now, was in the gate region. And when I went to go export it, everything looked perfect. So it was just like a preview, an error with the preview there. I'm not sure if I want this actually. Okay, how about we'll just leave one of these on, seeing as I haven't used the print feature much in the past here. As I believe I mentioned, it's not necessarily my favorite, so I think it's just a little bit too aggressive, honestly. See, I don't know. Let's see how this looks. Yeah, it's too aggressive. It's gonna go back to linear. I'll just leave it on the linear one. Okay. Go to color head. No, I think the greens need a little bit of tweaking. They were looking pretty yellow. The blues, maybe go backtrack here a little bit to look at the blues. As you can see, everything is very similar to the desktop app, which is really great. There's tons of flexibility what you can do here. Now with this, gonna just add a bit of grain here. We can zoom in on it here to see what that looks like. You can see now already the video is a little bit choppy based on doing this. You can see that it's a little bit choppy based on this already. It's pretty resource heavy, this app. But the playback is still decent. It's not too much slower than on my MacBook M1 Pro. So that's pretty decent. Let's see, what do we have here? Maybe I'm gonna backtrack the halation a little bit. Oh, this is a bit much. I think that looks beautiful in the mountaintop there. Halation, or sorry, the vignette. Maybe I'll just brighten up the corners, or no, I'm gonna darken them a little bit. Actually seems pretty good on the iOS app. I think it's quite responsive. Like side by side with the computer, it's really solid actually. I don't believe they charge too much either for the iOS app, which is sweet. So now this is where I ran into a bit of an issue before. As you can see, there is another, I believe, or maybe it's the offset that's doing this. Yeah, so there's a bug in the gate settings with the iOS. This is what I had mentioned before. So now these orange bars on the side were blue, and that's that issue that I experienced in the past. This is only the second time I've encountered this issue, so usually it doesn't show its head, but for whatever reason this time just wanted to do it again, which is not very lucky for Dehancer, but should include that in here just to show you. Hopefully they can see this bug and they're able to fix it. Now, yeah, changing between all these keeps the air persists, but if I were to create the video, it would go away. So very interesting. Because of this, I'm just going to actually leave it on, and I'll show you that even though there is this issue, it does resolve itself. I'm just going to double click the bar here to put the offset back to its regular position. Film breath, I'm going to leave that on, and then gate weave, leave that on. Now let's generate this. Oh, look at that. When I went to gate weave, it fixed itself. So it only now in the overscan region I'm seeing this error. Go to film breath, it's gone. So now let's look at our video. It's going to be really laggy, but still playable. Definitely good enough to edit it. Okay, now as you can see, it totally went away. So now I'm gonna export to a full res video, and this, I think it was 15-second video or 8-second, sorry, I forget. It's about 1.5 minutes render time. So I'm going to fast forward through this. Now, wrapping things up, I have some final thoughts on Dehancer with some pros and cons and some suggestions for improvements and whether or not you should purchase this or not, and then get that out of the way first. For the negatives with this, first off is the price. It will be out of reach for most creators that are not taking this videography or color grading thing seriously. The price is quite steep, so it'll be quite a bit of a jump for most people, which I totally understand. Second off, I do find that the plugin is a little complicated for a lot of photography users, and they might not be too versed with what a lot of it does. However, just even watching this video in its entirety, especially the DaVinci portion where we go through the manual, you will be able to comprehend everything quite quickly. And I've had this now for 3 weeks, and I feel like I can move my way around the app quite well. With all that said, I believe you can overcome that. For my third con for Dehancer, it's not any fault of its own, but I do find that it is quite resource heavy on your system. So you're going to want to make and apply it near the very end of your workflow, or you can go something like Command D and then just disable it while you're working on other things if you want to get the speed back on your system. For my fourth, I did encounter a single bug, and that was just on the iOS app, and this was with the overscan. There were 2 different bugs, and you can see one of which that I mentioned inside the iOS app, and that should be a pretty simple fix, but it did not affect the overall outcome and output of the exported video. So yeah, not a big deal at all. They've done a really good job at ironing the tweaks out in the system. For my suggestions on a few things they could improve, I would like to see when you open up a plugin for everything to just be at default with nothing applied. I find that it can be a little bit annoying having to deselect everything when working on it, and I just feel like it's kind of a little bit unnecessary having things pre-selected. Now, when we're going and opening up, say, the DaVinci Resolve plugin, it would be nice if we could have some presets where we have like a few different looks that we've pre-selected, and then we can just kind of choose through a few of our own presets within the DaVinci Resolve Mac OS app. That's one thing that would be really nice, and I've seen a few other people complain about things being pre-selected, so I think that would be a really good addition. Another thing that I think would be nice is if we were able to, with the overscan, allow multiple photos to be added into one, so it could look like an actual film scan rather than it being the same photo 3 times or 4 times or however you set it. So I think that would be nice if you could add that functionality where you could combine photos in the overscan region. Now, going over to the web app, I wasn't able to find a way to backtrack my settings, and if I were to want to do that, I'm not sure exactly how I could. I pressed a few keyboard commands and I couldn't figure that out. So if that's not an option currently, I would like to see that on the web app. And yeah, that's about it for suggestions with overall functionality of the plugin. All in all, I really enjoyed my time here with Dehancer, and I will be using it on every project in the near future. Even if it's just a little bit of halation, bloom, or grain in each video, I'm going to use just a little bit here and there, and sometimes I'll do some bigger grades, and I will let you know when I've done that. But yeah, it's worked out really well for me, and I do suggest that if you're serious about this sort of cinematography work, to pick it up. And as I mentioned before, there is a code Devin_10, and I would appreciate if you used it, and you can get yourself 10% off. And I hope this video was of value to you. I've spent now 3 weeks using Dehancer, so I'm pretty well versed on it now. Coming from someone that's mostly into photography, I've Wasn't really too familiar with a lot of what the plugin does, but I feel pretty confident now with my time with it to be able to use it on whatever project and get pretty close to the results I'd like. This plugin, it gets most of the way there for the film-like look. However, there are a few things like the highlight roll-off that it won't achieve perfectly. However, it does a really good job with what it does. And now, as we started off in the video looking at film prices, it's just not an option for most people. So this is the next best thing. I really look forward to the future upgrades that they offer because they're working on this day in and day out. It's obvious with how much they've created so far, and I look forward to what they bring in the future. So thank you, Dehancer, for letting me do this review, and I look forward to using your product for quite a while. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye for now.